with Crazy Horse. That's a very sprawling, wonderful, sometimes really funny book. I'm drawing a blank. I mean, I think in a few weeks, my friend John Hodgman will be here, and he is very passionate about, fake knowledge. So that is also fun, too. Yeah. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Do you have any other recommendations?
I don't know. He's more of a television journalist, but he's also done a book or two. But Louis Theroux, who's also an Englishman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like his work, and he's, I think he can have a similar thing about more I guess sociology. I guess if you want to put a label on it, but. Mm-hmm. So, and then also, just in science fiction, like Spider Robinson, I think has a similar sort of humanistic approach. But
Spider Robinson.
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
So. Thank you. Thank you.
I remember your story from 8 years ago when you and a group of people who you had been commiserating with went to the inauguration of George Bush. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what has become of that group, and if you have any updates to give us and how you're doing in this election season.
The group kind of it was an email group that was kind of obsessed with the election, and that election kind of broke us. We still, write each other individually, but we're not a group anymore. So, I don't know what else to say. You know how, you grow up and grow apart. It's one of those kind of things. Your government gets itself into this, never-ending war, and, it's I can't imagine. Obviously the news is so crucial, and, we all, followed the news all day long now in a way, but it's not as fun to talk about. The thing that was so great about the 2000 election, that was so fun to be so nitpicky and poor over everything, was that because the country was in relatively great shape, all the ideas were incredibly kind of narrow and specific, and you could talk about, policy things. About the Park Service maintenance budget and how people are talking about that, instead of, the big gaping hole that is our economy, or the big gaping hole that is our foreign policy. The big gaping hole we live in, is less fun to email 12 million times a day about, because, it's so crucial, everything. I don't know. Those were good times, though. Thank you.
I saw you on The Daily Show, and you mentioned listening to FDR and getting some solace from the words that he had back then, and I was just wondering, what was it about what he said that gave you solace?
The thing I liked about, she's referring to one day last week when after the economy, that whole thing. And I couldn't really face the newspaper again, and so I just started reading the fireside chats, because people keep referring to, during the Depression, how President Roosevelt really bucked up the nation, and so I decided to get bucked up and started reading the fireside chats. And the thing I liked about them is how inclusive they are. He kind of talks about everything everyone can do. He talks about what he can do as president, what the rest of the government can do, what the bankers can do, and then what the people can do. And the other, he's continually advising people not to panic, and I guess our current president is doing that a little bit too, but for some reason it's just more reassuring from Roosevelt. But but the thing I love about, we all know that quote, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, but that's just a continual through line in all of them, is the destructive nature of fear. And he is constantly kind of like being aware of that and dissecting that and cautioning against that, and he just has this real anti-fear campaign, and it's just so refreshing, considering all the like fear mongering of the last few years, when it seems like the government exists solely to freak us out. And then especially the executive branch seems happiest when we're at our most reactionary, scared, to have a true leader who is saying like that fear itself is destructive, and the thing that we can guard against that, and we can do that together, and you can do your part and I will do my part, and together we will get through this. And he's also he just explains a lot of things, how like banking works, or he's just very he's a really good teacher. Like he really kind of teaches through things as a way, partly of just doing his job, but also to put a stop to so much fear and panic. And it seems like that we have definitely lost that in our leadership. And it's not just like him being it's not untruthful, and it's not him looking on the bright side. And a lot of times he says like certain decisions are going to be harder on some groups than others, and he names those groups. But just the calming nature of it, and also even though he's very educational and explains things, he doesn't really talk down to people, and the way he includes the whole country in his in his endeavor, that he says, we need a new national will. And the way he says it makes you feel like you could be part of that and you could help. And it's very stirring. And I just haven't gotten that lately from my living leaders. So.
It being Columbus Day, I was wondering what you thought of Columbus Day and whether or not we're doing a good job with our historical holidays, and what your favorite one might be. And
Thanks. What if we're doing a good job with our historical holidays? I don't know. I feel like people could do more with the day Lincoln was shot. What do I think of Columbus Day? I don't know. I mean, it obviously is like, it's hard to think of that as a holiday, considering the big can of worms. I mean, like, I'm continually obsessed with European contact and the various, like, the progress of that. And I mean, one of the things I write about in this book, though, is how destructive that initial contact was, even before settlement, because, there was this plague that kind of ravaged through the Americas that perhaps wiped out as much as 90% of the original inhabitants. And I even, go so far as amending my topic sentence that there's the only thing more dangerous than an idea is a belief, that maybe the only thing more dangerous is a germ. And Columbus ushers in the age of cooties, basically. And so it's hard. It's crushing. Like, imagine maybe 9 out of every 10 people are dead. Like, it's a horrifying, just the introduction of Europe's germs into these continents was incredibly devastating. But also the good things happened. I like thinking about that spark, those meetings, and so I don't know what to say about Columbus. Can of worms, right? But maybe if I were Italian, I would be a little more rah rah rah. But I'm not Italian. And as for historical holidays, I don't know. I guess you got your President's Days. Do you have any that you're kind of aching for? I live in New York, so it's pretty much, we're big into the Jewish holidays there. But I also haven't had a job since 1994. So all holidays are just kind of theoretical to me. Like, so I'd probably have a different relationship with holidays than people with actual jobs, being self-employed. So I don't know. I do enjoy. What do I like? I like fireworks. I like turkey, and those. I feel like there are enough. In fact, like as a person who doesn't have a job, the days when the civilians, as I call those of you who do have jobs, when you're not doing your job, because I'm usually doing my job on various holidays, it's always disruptive to me and my work because you're suddenly like randomly gone because of the holidays, or you're suddenly randomly running your errands in my errand running time. So I should probably, maybe I should make my boss, me, observe holidays. And then I would be better able to answer your question. Until that time, I remain holiday neutral. Anywho, I would like to thank you all for coming. What a nice show of support. It's so nice to be back here in the capital of Montana. I have a kind of lifelong partiality to this town and its people and music, and I'm so happy to see all of you here tonight in this beautiful building. So thanks for coming out.
Welcome to Seattle Voices. I'm Eric Liu. I'm delighted to have as my guest today the King County Sheriff, Sue Rahr. Sue, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
So, King County Sheriff, I mean, your name, and that's an office that is almost in the papers every day, one form or fashion. But I bet if you were to ask the person on the street, what does the King County Sheriff's Office do? They wouldn't necessarily be able to answer crisply or clearly, maybe as much as you'd like to. What's a day in the life or a week in the life for you like?
Well, each week is a little bit different. I think one of the challenges of being the sheriff is my range of responsibilities is quite diverse. The sheriff's office itself serves over 500,000 people. Part of that is through our contracts with 12 different cities. So we have policing responsibilities for unincorporated King County, as well as those cities for which we have contracts. In addition to that, I have a responsibility as an elected law enforcement official to be the voice on behalf of law enforcement in this region. And I think that's a significant part of my role that most people really aren't aware of.
And in any given situation, do you feel like, if you had to draw a pie chart of your work, how much is external and how much is internal, kind of managing the massive operation of of law enforcement?
You know, it varies from time to time. Right now, while the legislature is in session, a lot of my time is devoted to keeping on top of different issues in front of the legislature. Because as I said, as the elected sheriff, I have to take my responsibility as the voice of law enforcement in King County very seriously. So during this time of year, I'd say probably 30 to 40% of my time is external. Internally, I don't think it ever goes below 50 or 60% because we have a very large workforce. I have 1,100 employees. About 750 of those carry guns. Wow. So I have to pay attention and stay on top of that.
What the overlapping systems of governance and responsibility, just in a given period of time, how does the King County Sheriff's Office relate with, say, the Seattle Police Department or the FBI or anything like that? I mean, how much of your life is spent coordinating across different jurisdictions and different levels of responsibility, and how much do you get to just focus on what's quote unquote yours?
What's mine?
Yeah.
There a lot of it. A lot of my time and energy is focused on coordination. In fact, that's part of our vision statement for the Sheriff's Office, is to lead collaboration in this region. We do a number of things with the Seattle Police Department. Since 9/11, obviously our world changed, and we have to be very vigilant about making sure we're prepared for any type of a terrorist attack, as well as not just man-made disasters, but also natural disasters in this area. So we have our SWAT team, all of those types of operations we coordinate regionally with other police departments. We have demonstration management teams. Again, we coordinate and work with other departments in the area. We have detectives that are part of regional task forces. We have a drug task force that we several actually drug task forces that we participate in. I have detectives assigned, one assigned to the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, another one assigned to the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Gang Task Force. Many different task forces. But again, one of the important things that I need to do is do what I can to help lead collaboration between the various police departments in this region.
When you talked earlier about having in many ways the responsibility of being the voice for law enforcement, or a leading voice, how do you go about finding that voice, and how do you go about, and you talk about this kind of necessary collaboration with different entities across the board. Is your voice a synthesis of the voices and interests of a lot of other entities out there, or is it much more a thing of, no, I'm the sheriff and I have a vision and I need to articulate that and know that because of this platform that I've been elected to, what I say kind of sets the agenda?
You know, I think it's more of a synthesis. It certainly doesn't work well to stand down in front and pound my chest and tell people we're going to do it my way. That doesn't work at all. But on the other hand, somebody has to take responsibility for trying to get people together and help agree upon a direction. In King County, we're very lucky. We have a very healthy working relationship amongst our police chiefs. And I think people see, you know, on movies and TVs, oftentimes they talk about how police chiefs are fighting with each other. And you just don't see that in this region. And the citizens here are very lucky that that isn't the case.
Why do you think that is? Is that just the luck of the draw in terms of personalities, or is there a culture of that here? I mean,
I really think it's really part of our culture. And I can give you an example. King County has an organization called the King County Police Chiefs Association. All the chiefs in King County meet once a month, and we also have representatives from the FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshal's Office, all of our federal partners that work in this region. And we talk about what are the issues facing us and how can we work together to solve those. One of our great successes is we collaborated on an information sharing system titled RAIN. And what that has done is tied all of our information databases together. And that was purely a product of collaboration. Many of us have worked together. I know several of the police chiefs I worked with on patrol. And so one of the advantages of having grown up in this area and grown up in the sheriff's office is I've developed a lot of relationships over my 28 years.
We've had, as a guest on this show, Norm Mailing, the King County prosecutor, and he speaks in interesting ways about how, yes, the core of his job is to lock up and put away bad guys, but increasingly his emphasis is on, I suppose, the prevention side of law enforcement and trying to deal with things earlier in the pipeline. Do you feel in your scope of responsibility as sheriff that that's a place you can go as well, or do you feel like, no, actually much more in the sheriff's office than in the prosecutor's office, say, the emphasis has to be on the nuts and bolts of literally catching and putting away the bad guys?
Well, actually, Norm is a very wise man. I consider him one of my dearest friends and mentors. And really, we both focus on prevention, on the prevention side. I think it's very important that we look at the big picture at all times. It becomes very detrimental if each organization stays focused just on their piece of the pie. One example of this phenomena is looking at what causes people to end up getting arrested and going to jail. We've been struggling with the problem of jail overcrowding for years, and the forecast is not good about how we're going to deal with this. And so a number of us have been working on identifying people that are in jail that shouldn't be there. And to make a very long story short, I led a collaboration last fall to host a statewide summit on dealing with mentally ill and drug-addicted offenders. And this summit was co-sponsored by WASPIC, the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, as well as NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. This was a collaboration that I don't think had ever been done before. But what we were looking at is how does the system deal with mentally ill and drug-addicted offenders? And the system is very counterproductive the way it's set up right now. And
Hi, I'm Sharon Bennett with Communications and Public Affairs. Welcome to Netline. I'm in one of City Light's many copy rooms. We're starting the program here because this is ground zero in an ongoing effort within the utility, the reduction of paper use. We'll talk about that and give you some tips on how you can help with the Paper Cuts program. We'll also take a little field trip to the birthplace of City Light, the Cedar River watershed, and how this magnificent resource is being used to educate our future citizen owners. Then we'll travel to a potential vacation spot you may not have thought about, right here in City Light's own backyard, the Skagit Hydroelectric Project and the many interesting historical sites in the town of New Halem. But first, a close-up look at paper cuts. Everyone knows about recycling. It's a good idea, good for the environment because it conserves resources. Making paper takes the raw material, usually wood from trees, and uses water and energy, which also adds to pollution and consumes other precious resources. More than 40% of the wood harvested for industrial use goes to making paper. In the U.S., the pulp and paper industry is the second largest consumer of energy and uses more water to produce a ton of product than any other industry. Americans represent 5% of the world's population, but we use 30% of the world's paper. And often in the end, the paper ends up in the recycling bin. But even recycling, as we do at City Light, uses resources, collecting and storing the materials, and the paper making process, again, using water and energy. And then there are the costs to ship and store the new recycled paper. So the cleanest and most efficient use of resources is to produce and consume less paper. Not using paper requires no wood, energy, or water, just some thought as people go about their jobs. Even though we have a warehouse full of 100% recycled paper, the city has set a goal that we will use less of it with the Paper Cuts program.
The City Light goal is the same as the goal for all other city departments, and that is to reduce our paper use in 2006 by 30% from our baseline 2 years ago.
Janice Gedland is a senior environmental analyst at City Light and is coordinating the department's Paper Cuts program. Now obviously, we can't stop using paper here at City Light, but we can cut back on the amount of paper we use. That's where the Paper Cuts program comes in. It gives us ideas on how to be more thoughtful about paper use. Think of it this way. By reducing paper use 30%, City Light will save 2.4 million sheets of paper a year at a cost of almost $10,000. We'll also save 410,000 BTUs of energy and 214,000 gallons of water. If each employee used just 5 to 6 fewer sheets of paper per day, we'd be close to a 30% reduction in paper use. Go to the Paper Cuts website on the city website at www.seattle.gov/papercuts and check all the ways people are cutting back. First of all, make sure that the materials you copy and print are double-sided. Another easy way to save paper is to keep your work products in a digital format. And it's not just the paper you'll be saving.
You know, the great thing about saving paper is it not only reduces our environmental impact, but it saves a lot of time too. Just think of how much time you can save by emailing a document to all the CC lists instead of making a copy of each one, putting it in an envelope, sending it out to folks, and retrieving information. I used to make copies of everything and have a paper file on it all, but then I couldn't find it when I needed it.
Here are a couple of tips from Seattle City Lights Service Desk on using your computer to save your work without paper.
Hi, I'm Arnie Brusklin from the Information Technology Service Desk, and I want to show you a couple of easy ways to cut back on your paper usage. Many believe they have to make paper copies of important email because the system erases them from mailboxes after 45 days. But that isn't the case for email saved to archive. When you archive an item in GroupWise, it is permanently saved to your H drive on the network. Let me show you how to do this. To archive a message, first open the message and select the Actions menu, and then select Move to Archive. You'll notice that the message will disappear from the current folder. To go into your archive, go over to the left-hand side and find the word that says Online. Click that and select Archive from the pop-up menu. You'll notice that the online word will change to Archive and that your title bar will also show the word Archive. This indicates that you're no longer in the online mailbox. Locate the message that you previously archived and open it. You will notice that the reply and forward functions are grayed out, indicating that that function will not work. In order to reply or forward a previously archived message, you must first restore it to the online mailbox. To do this, just go to the Actions menu again and select Move to Archive again to deselect. You'll notice it'll disappear from the current folder. Now to find it back in your regular mailbox, you need to return to the online mailbox. Go back over to the left and select the word Archive one more time, and select your name in the pop-up menu. Locate the message and open. You'll notice that reply and forward are now enabled. If the restored message is already older than 45 days, make sure you re-archive it before exiting GroupWise, otherwise the message will be deleted. An alternative to archiving is to save an email as a Word file. This can be done by following these steps. To save a message as a Word document, first open the message, then click the File menu and select Save As. Under Items to Save, select the item that you want to save out, then edit the file name if needed, and then enter the current directory where you want.
Okay, take 5. Seattle Center, Monday the 23rd. Mike coming out. Okay, here they come. That's all right, we're right on time. Check. Why is it doing that?
What? What's doing it?
Major noise there. We don't want anybody freezing. Camera folks. I know we need 2 hours, but
Where do you want us? How far back?
Oh,
I have speed. And
Speed?
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Let's do a rehearsal.
Okay.
We should send the help.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, we will. Can we have some sheets?
you can't be looking at your sheet music.
What's the first word? Take
Another day goes by.
another day. Go
Still
by.
the children cry.
And still the children cry. Put a little love in your heart. You want the world to know.
We do
you
need
won't
a
let
good first
hatred
note.
grow. Put a little love.
Jan, you know how to give a note?
On 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's just do that first again, and then just do the chorus, okay? Alright?
You're in the shot, Jim. We need you over here. No, I'm not in the shot. I'm gonna do it at the fountain.
What? Another day goes by. What's the other one?
Another
And
day
still the
goes by
children
after
cry.
the children cry.
Okay, what's the next part? Okay, we got it.
You want the world to know we won't let hatred grow.
Okay, that's good.
On 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
How does that part go? Ladies only. Men.
Is that boxing your shot? You go through a repetition otherwise. Okay, I'm rolling, but I'm going to close it after 8. That's just a poor example. Okay, yeah.
That right there fitting my.
Come on. again. Speed. Okay, I'm 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn at the camera. Okay, in tight.
Known as the Creeks Initiative, and I'd like to invite our guests up for this subject and turn it over to Councilmember Pageler.
Thank you. This is an opportunity for us to hear from the proponents of the initiative and to have hopefully a better understanding of what the initiative does and why. We have Scott McCall from our central staff who is compiling our questions and is going to be working with us around getting those answered. And Noel Lowney and Pam Johnson, who have, I guess, written this initiative and secured the signatures, and are here to explain it to us. Last time we had some reaction to the initiative from city staff, but unfortunately we didn't get an explanation of what the initiative was and what it does and why. And so I hope you can provide that for us so that we'll have your perspective on what the initiative is about.
Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Pam Johnson. I'm the co-chair of Yes for Seattle, and we are the proponents of Initiative 80 Save Seattle Creeks. And we are going to be providing all the information that Margaret is looking for today. We think last week you heard from the mayor's office a briefing about what's not in the initiative, and we certainly look forward to telling you more about what is actually in this initiative. The initiative was written and submitted to the city with over 20,000 signatures based on a real need to step up the city's efforts to protect and restore creeks. The community and environmental groups endorsing this initiative include the Sierra Club, Seattle Audubon Society, Washington Conservation Voters, Thornton Creek Legal Defense Fund, and a number of others. These organizations and hundreds of individual volunteers in this city recognize the value of maximizing the health of our fish and wildlife habitat here in the city. The average voter also agrees. Polling data shows that 84% of Seattle residents see protection of salmon and wildlife habitat, and 91% see pollution of our waterways as problems worth solving. 83% of Seattle voters say it's important to increase our open space, especially creeks and salmon habitat. People do understand that besides providing essential habitat to salmon and other fish and wildlife, healthy creeks offer substantial benefits to our city. For example, functioning creeks are a natural filter for stormwater runoff, which I think most of you would agree is one of our biggest and most costly pollution problems here in the city. We're already spending millions of dollars trying to control stormwater runoff and then cleaning up the contamination from it. Stormwater runoff carries pollution such as pesticides, fertilizers, and the oily residues from streets and pavement that enter our creeks and ultimately into Puget Sound. Pesticides found in our creeks are known to cause harm to salmon, and the contaminants from our cars are the culprits of liver lesions and tumors found in our bottom fish right here. I've also passed out, along with your packets, a letter and resume from Cleve Stewart, who is a professional fishery scientist, and he offers some more information about salmonid populations in and around the city. We also know that hundreds of volunteer hours have been spent restoring the city creeks, and it's paid off for the city. We know that when we build it, they will come with creek restoration, even very small creek restoration. Salmon do return. But sometimes there's restoration opportunities that require a larger effort than just volunteer stewardship. It's those rare opportunities to which the city has turned its back. And Initiative 80 builds on this extremely valuable work done by volunteers in our city and asks the city to be a more active partner. Noel will be going through a brief summary of the initiative on how it does this. But before he does that, I would like to offer a few recommendations on how the city proceeds from this point. Yes for Seattle and over 20,000 people have asked you to place this initiative on the ballot by itself. And as you consider this request, we're asking three things of you. First of all, read the initiative. If you have a question about what is in there, we ask that your first resource actually be the text of the initiative, and you have a copy of it in each of your packets. Second of all, please do your job. You were elected, and you are now paid to listen to your constituents and then make decisions like this, and so you don't need others to make them for you. In these tight budget times, we were very surprised to see a letter from this council asking the Muni League to host a public process and offer to pay the Muni League to host that public process. We're asking that you do your own evaluation, that you listen to the comments from others, from the Muni League. Their evaluation will be critical, from all the other supporters and opponents of this initiative. And third, we're asking you to enforce the law regarding public resources and facilities being used to support, oppose a ballot measure. Private dollars, not taxpayers, should be funding the opposition to this initiative. We believe that the mayor's office has already crossed that line in issuing their report and their oil briefing last Monday. A report so full of miscalculations and bad math that it cannot be interpreted as providing unbiased information. A report that has generated a response from this council, even before you've had a public hearing, to conclude that an alternative must be drafted. We hope that our information today will give you some more valuable information about evaluating this initiative, and I'm going to turn it over to Noel now to do that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm Noel Lowney. I'm also a co-chair of Yes for Seattle. I'd like to reiterate our thanks for you taking the time and having us here today. Some of the information on the initiative can be found on our website. I think most of you have seen it, yesforseattle.org. I'm going to start by briefly summarizing the initiative.
If I could, I had put yesforseattle.org as the reference on the city's website for people who wanted information about the initiative. And then I realized that the issue that you raised, that we're not supposed to cross-reference on our city website campaigns. So I asked that that be taken up, but I didn't mean it as a disrespect, because I think you're right. That is the best way for citizens to get direct information about the initiative.
Thank you. So I'd like to start by briefly summarizing what is in the initiative, because contrary to some of the information that's been given to you, it is narrowly tailored. However, the first piece of it is not narrowly tailored, which is it requires comprehensive planning for restoration of our creeks. It looks to create a long-term creek restoration plan and adopts pro-environmental policies that should guide us in the future. It has a long-term vision, It will restore creeks over the long term. That's the sort of broad part. The narrow part is how it affects property within the city, and it affects private property and public property differently. For private property, it requires restoration only when there is a major creekside development. And that's like industrial or commercial, not governmental, not institutional. And it only residential if it's a multifamily or a new subdivision or a short subdivision on an area of land a half acre or greater. Now, we think that this is fair to have private property owners assist with creek restoration when they're doing a major creekside development, because those developments create impacts, and it's important because these developments create a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually take care of the creeks. If a project is built without creek restoration, we may never have a chance within our lifetimes to go back and do that restoration. Now, on public property, the normal restoration requirements don't apply. The only requirements are that you cannot use pesticides within 200 feet, and we're asking that the city work to daylight creeks on public property within 20 years. The map you have before you shows a number of the parks and shows how that we have done so much to save our creeks in the parks already, and we just have a little further to go. Now, in terms of funding, the initiative caps the costs at $5 per household per year. Got a little tool here, $5 bill, $5 per household per year. SPU has calculated that this would raise
Dance and art. And we'll be doing bits and pieces solo. We'll do a little bit of dance, then we'll do a little bit of music, and then a little bit of art. And then we'll put it all back together again at the end, which is the same thing that we do in our Elements concert coming up next Thursday and Friday night. And that you'll have a chance to come and see that, see us in action. But today it's just for you guys, and let's start moving.
Okay, yeah, let's just take a spin around the circle and shout out your name, and maybe you'll catch 2 or 3 of them, or if you're good, you'll catch all of them. And just begin filling in a little bit of the dance element idea. We won't worry too much about it right away, more so to get you into movement. Okay, to start with, just give a little bit of a shake. Get your body to shake. Shake, 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 shake. Let the head go. Shake, 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 shake. And take it into a run in place. Good job. Get the knees lifted higher, 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 higher. And then slow it down, slow it down. Slow motion run. Go through the whole body, so it lifts and it falls, and it lifts and it falls. Lift. And then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's just right inside your body, just a little motor that keeps going, and then pick it up again. So the motor's fluttering right inside. Okay, with that motor going inside, calm everything on the outside, and we'll take a roll down from the head, starting with the head, the shoulders, let the knees bend, and then roll it up, all the way through the chest, so your chest goes to the ceiling, and then bring it to center. Good, so starting from the head, we'll take it on a 4 count, so you've got 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, coming up 5. 6 back to 7 up on 8 again. 2 up on 7 again, and arms wide, but keep the body lifting up through the fountain coming up through the arm. And take a deep breath. Okay, good. Don't hold so much energy that you can't move. See if you can find how to keep your breath going and the body keep fluid through that. Okay, here we go for a swim. And forward and forward and forward. Ready for the backward and a back. Back, 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 back. Breaststroke and around. To the back, pull the arms around. To the back, pull them up and around. To the back and around. To the back. Then you got a swing. Three other way and back. 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 Music is like making a salad. You get a little tomatoes, and lettuce, and cheese, and sunflower seeds, and sprouts, and all these different things that have different colors and different tastes and different textures, and you put them all together. And so we brought a lot of different colors and tastes and textures with us today. And what I'd like initially for us to do is to each of us find two very different sounds somewhere in all this mess of possibilities of making sounds, not excluding your voice or the floor or whatever else you might find. When you find your two sounds, you can either find one instrument, which you can play two different ways, or you can find two different instruments. It doesn't matter. But think about, like you did a lot of different movements. You did some very slow movements. You did some very percussive movements. You moved low, you moved high, you moved wide, you moved skinny. There are the same kind of qualities you can find in music. So I'm not going to say too much more. I'm just going to give you just that, and let's see what you can come up with. The only parameter is that you find two very different sounds. And in what way they're different is up to you. So come and find anything's available, and then come back to the circle when you found it. What I'd like to do is to go around the circle real quickly and have everyone right after another sort of play a little bit of each of your sounds so that we get an idea of what we have available to us to put into our salad. Okay? Okay, so why don't we start right here. We're going to use two sounds, Heather. Just be quiet so we can listen.
All right.
Wonderful. Now that's two very different sounds. Definitely, definitely. Okay. Great, great. Now we still haven't really gotten, in the 6 sounds that we've heard so far, there's maybe been some similarities, but we really are discovering we're getting a lot of different sounds. Okay, let's do the next one. Great, great. That's called improvisation. Okay, let's do next. Great. They're both things that rattle, but they're totally different. Okay, let's hear what you have. Great.
So I find that story, while horrifying, it sort of humanizes them a little bit. That's me looking on the bright side. Go ahead.
Who do you feel is the most underappreciated character in American history, or in particular, somebody who we should know about, but for reasons, we don't happen to learn as much about them as we do other individuals.
Who do I think is the most unappreciated person in American history? Who was the person who invented caller ID? 'Cause I would like to know more about this person. This person has spared me from talking, and at times I was not really in the mood to talk. So there's that. I don't know. Do you have a nomination? No? Go ahead.
You say in your book that one of the reasons that brought you to do the Puritan book was after finding comfort in Winthrop's words.
After what?
After finding comfort in Winthrop's words after 9/11. I'm just wondering what brought you to that to begin with. I mean, I have to say I hadn't heard of him before.
I had this book of sermons. I'm sure you have it too. And the model of Christian charity was, one of my sermons in my anthology of sermons. It's really one of your better sermons. And I think I got that book because it had a Martin Luther King sermon I was looking for. So.
How do you balance your roles as a humorist, journalist, historian, when you're writing and producing content, whether for the radio or for a book? And do you ever find it difficult to make a choice between, maybe detailed historical accuracy versus a well-turned phrase or joke?
Well, I mean, I don't think about any of those questions. I think that would be a little maddening. I just think of myself as a writer, and wherever I am at every story just kind of demands, each story kind of calls out for how it should be told, So, I mean, sometimes, like on the radio, a lot of dilemmas are decided just because of time, or I don't know. I mean, it just kind of depends. I mean, usually even the jokes and stuff, I like to think sort of most of the time have a point, except when they don't. I mean, like there are these things I do, I call them shenanigans, and sometimes they're just like pure tangents that for me are just part of the joy of being a writer is, going off down a dead end for a second. But I don't really think about the balance or anything. Like, I mean, different topics, like with this book, different topics require a different sensibility. Like there's, the description of the Pequot, the massacre at Mystic Fort, in which 700 men, women, and children are burned alive. And that one is relatively not particularly chatty, but then other times when, like, Roger Williams hears his wife is sick, and as her get well note, he writes her a treatise on behavior that's full of examples of how the men of the Bible are constantly being dragged down by the women in their lives. Like, that brings out a little bit more of the lighthearted in me, So I don't want to choose. I mean, just some things require, a different kind of tone than others. And, I hope, like, being a halfway decent person really makes a lot of those choices more than any kind of, editing plan or something. But I don't really think like that. I mean, I just try and write. When I'm writing, I just want something to be clear and not generic. And sometimes, the least generic, most clear way to say something is with a joke or not, whatever. Just I just write how I think. I'm a whole person, sir. Yes.
I guess I was curious because when I was reading Assassination Vacation, I got a sort of negative vibe about John Brown. But I was wondering how you think that fits with what you were describing today about what you thought about.
John Brown, the terrorist. You got a negative feeling about him?
But
I don't know where you didn't get that from me.
Well,
he was an upstanding murderer, that guy.
Well, I guess what I was getting is that this seems to be somebody.
He hacked up families, like with, I think, a machete. I mean, he had some very good ideals. Also, he was against slavery, but
Well, right, but this is. I mean, I guess what I'm suggesting is that this is a person who engaged in great personal risks to try, and I mean, it was kind of stupid, but I mean, he tried to free. I mean, he was trying to do something that he thought was right out of a religious conviction. But it seems like that's very similar to what John Winthrop, how you described the John Winthrop case going on here, and I guess I was wondering what the admiration for one, but not so much admiration for the other.
well, I do spend a lot of my book talking about Winthrop and his fellow magistrates doing things like punishing someone who speaks against the magistrates by banishing him and slicing off his ears. You know, the thing about burning the Pequot alive. I mean, Winthrop is as complex a figure as John Brown. I guess probably Winthrop kind of farmed out the violence, whereas John Brown, you know, did the hacking and shooting himself. But I mean, there are a lot of figures in history and current events who, you know, have these ideals, and some of them are right, but you know, they back up their ideals with violence. And part of, I think, talking about that and writing about that is important. You know, I mean, the first line in my book is, the only thing more dangerous than an idea is a belief. And I try, I have my beliefs, but I try to question them, and I try to, you know, keep track of my own rigidity. And I feel like a lot of the, not just violence in the world, but a lot of the large-scale violence, a lot of the state-sponsored violence, a lot of the terrorism in the world, is that kind of violence is only perpetrated by people who, with beliefs. But large-scale violence, especially genocide, is usually only accomplished because of idealism. You know, like, I mean, I kind of compare Puritan Massachusetts with the Soviet Union, because both of them start out with these ideals of community and solidarity and brotherhood, and those are really wonderful, really beautiful ideals, but like, you know, the way they hold their communities together is by exiling and sometimes, especially with the Soviets, killing the people who stick out, the people who make waves. So I think idealism is sometimes the most dangerous commodity in the world, and it gets people killed. And I don't know how else to say it.
With your appreciation for the English and the English language, and this sort of, sometimes people talk about the British get irony in a way that Americans just don't. And I wonder if you'd do us the favor of defining what that difference is that makes Americans so bad at understanding irony.
We're bad at irony?
I think so.
What makes us bad at irony?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're more open-hearted than the English. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's true. Is it? I guess maybe I just run in a kind of smart alecky crowd.
Well, maybe it has something to do with the belief that you were just talking about. The people who take their beliefs so seriously, they can't see the
Yeah, I mean,
problems with it.
I don't know what to say about that. I do, like, I remember when McSweeney started and we would do, like, have the journal and then put on our events, and then we got called ironic. And we always thought we were just joking around, you know? Like, it wasn't, like, we weren't snotty or anything. We were just kind of joking. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that.
Welcome to Seattle Voices. I'm Eric Liu. I'm delighted to have as my guest today Bukta Gezar. She's the Executive Director of Social Justice Fund Northwest. And Bukta, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Social Justice Fund Northwest used to be called a territory resource, which is how it's known by many in the region. But for those who knew neither name, tell me a little bit about what you do.
Social Justice Fund is a public foundation. We're not an endowed foundation. Every year we raise our money from individuals who really care a lot about issues of equity and justice. We pool money currently from about 600 individuals who really care about these issues. And through these same individuals' participation, we grant that money back out to about 100 nonprofit grassroots progressive organizations in the Northwest. So we're a social change foundation, really committed to building a progressive grassroots social change movement in the Northwest.
When you say through these same donors, does that mean that you get the donors actively engaged in the grant making and the choosing of grantees?
That's correct. We're a member-driven foundation, so the individuals who give and pool their money together join granting committees, read proposals, do site visits, meet the grantees who've applied for funding, and come back together and through a scoring process and voting system select the groups that we fund every year.
I know that, just as a matter of fact, that there's a large proportion of your donor base, your member base, that are people of color. And is that an explicit part of your mission, or is that just the way that things have worked out by being, by having very strong outreach and the intentionality?
Yeah, it's actually both. That historically, foundations have attracted people who are much more mainstream, people who are European American and very wealthy and have identified with the term philanthropist, and who come together and pool their money and grant back out to the groups that they're really interested in supporting. But Social Justice Fund for many, many years has been really interested in building social change on the inside and being a philanthropic, democratic community that really looks like the world that we want to create. And what that means is being a cross-class and cross-race philanthropic community that represents the communities that we really are supporting, as well as the communities that are giving and doing the supporting, so that the gap between the people who give and the people who receive is not so wide, and that these two come together, and together they decide how to build a movement for social change.
And so does that mean a lot of or some strong proportion of your donor base is do not come from backgrounds of great financial means?
That's right. Currently, 34% of our donor base is made up of people of color, and about 25% of our donor base is actually people who have been connected to our grantee organizations. So these are folks who are really inspired by the way that we do our giving and really have seen the benefit of our granting in the communities and decide to contribute back. So we are very much of a cross-class and cross-race community. And I think that it is very much in the two coming together, the historically philanthropic individuals and also activists and people of color and working class and middle class people together, that we're really able to fulfill our mission.
What's the threshold for somebody to become a member or a donor? Can you put in any amount, or is there a certain bar you got to get over?
Yeah, we decided that we wanted to have a bar, but to make that bar very, very accessible. So the beginning level for membership is $240 a year or $20 a month, which is less than the cost of cup of coffee a day. And so you can become a member. Every member has one vote. And people come together, and through that democratic process, we decide how the granting is done in the community. And you know, all of our granting fits under the broad umbrella of social change. We don't have any issue-specific funding that we set aside. So, for example, we don't say 30% of our funding goes to women and children, 30% to education. We say that everything, as long as it fits under social change, we'll look at it and we'll fund it. So our priorities shift from time to time. And the way that we define social change is that the projects that we fund has to be directed at finding solutions to root causes of inequity and injustice.
What would be some examples?
So for example, personally, I come from a background of being a social worker. So I think that working on homelessness is actually social change work. But building a shelter, feeding people, finding a space for someone to sleep, although it is social change work, it's not really fighting the root causes of poverty. So we would not really fund that work. We would fund an organization that's really working at a policy and systems level to change policies that are impacting people who are poor. So for example, we fund Statewide Poverty Action Network and Welfare Rights Organizing Coalition, groups that are really working to change policies that have impacted people who are poor.
And how much money overall is Social Justice Fund Northwest granting out each year?
We've been funding about $850,000 a year for the last few years. Our goal is to really dramatically increase that because the need is only getting greater and greater in the community for nonprofits and especially for groups that are doing progressive social change work.
And what's the average grant amount that your recipients are getting?
I'm not sure what's the average, but we have a very broad range of grants from very small, where we fund technical assistance and rapid response. If a group has an immediate need and they need $500, for example, to be able to take some action, we're able to do that. We also have 3-year capacity and 3-year support grants that are $65,000 for larger organizations that are much more established and have a larger budget.
Now, as far as the donor base you're describing, bringing in folks